name is Daryl Kilmer, along with my partners Maury Newman and David Lane in our law firm. We represent the Booker family in the quest to seek justice for the death of Marvin Booker. Marvin was killed at the hands of 5 Denver Sheriff's Department employees on July 9th, 2010. That's over 10 months ago. And in the intervening time, the Booker family has been attempting to find out what, if anything, the city was going to do about the killing of their beloved family member. The city has refused to let the Bookers know what was going on. The city has refused for the last 10 months to answer the question, or to even allow the Booker family to see the videotapes of the last few minutes of Marvin's life. Mr. Booker's mother and Mr. Booker's father and his siblings have been asking repeatedly to be allowed in on the processing. Why was this remaining secret was their major question. It doesn't give one a sense of confidence when an investigation is done in the dark and in the shadows. This investigation has taken 10 months, and yesterday the city of Denver announces that it found nothing wrong with what happened, that the deputies who killed Mr. Booker were acting the way they were taught to act under these circumstances. That no policies were violated, and that this is how Denver trains its deputies to treat detainees at the jail. The city did announce, however, that they would change these policies, including banning the use of the carotid sleeper hold, which is a chokehold, which contributed significantly to Marvin's death on July 10, 2010. So the result of nearly a year of investigation by various city authorities is that the city says that the city did nothing wrong. Those of us who've lived in Denver for any length of time have heard this story before. The city almost always says that the city did nothing wrong after it investigates the city. Unfortunately, our community has seen a rash of police brutality that's come to the surface in the last couple of years, but it's been going on for over a generation, and nothing has been done. We've been promised that changes will be made, new safety managers, new mayors, new city attorneys, but it seems like when we meet the old boss, it's the same. When we meet the new boss, it's the same as the old boss. And that's a problem. It's a problem for the Booker family, and it's a problem for this community. We're here today to call upon the federal government to investigate this investigation. We would like to call upon the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to investigate the death of Marvin Booker and the policies that the city now says led to Mr. Booker's death. Only when somebody independently evaluates how the city runs its business can the community be sure that we have reliable results in these matters. Why should we doubt the reliability of the city's investigation? There are numerous reasons. Immediately upon Mr. Booker's death, the deputies, rather than being put on leave so that a fair, impartial investigation could occur, were allowed to return to work immediately the next day so that they could get their stories straight. They could talk with each other and talk with other witnesses and try to come up with some sort of consistency so that they could avoid accountability. And the investigation was turned over to another department of the Department of Safety, the Denver Police. And the Denver Police were investigating their law enforcement brethren, the Denver Sheriffs, and not surprisingly, came up with nobody did anything wrong, nobody should be disciplined. And they turned that investigation over to the Denver District Attorney's Office. Mitch Morrissey is the Denver District Attorney, and he relies upon testimony in all of his cases by Denver law enforcement officials, and he knows that if he finds them guilty of murdering Marvin Booker, there could be backlash. Mr. Morrissey had options. He could have brought this case to a grand jury, and a grand jury made up of citizens may very well have issued a true bill and returned criminal charges. Mr. Morrissey said he didn't want to do that. Mr. Morrissey also could have appointed a special prosecutor. This is what he should have done. A prosecutor from outside of the city of Denver apparatus to investigate these matters. so that we could have confidence that the investigation was a real investigation. But Mr. Morrissey didn't do that either. Instead, he decided that he was not going to bring any criminal charges against any of the officers involved in Marvin Booker's killing. The case was then turned over to the City of Denver's City Attorney's Office and the City of Denver's Department of Safety. And predictably, as we've so often seen, again, the investigation was one-sided and came to a foreseeable, predictable result. Nobody did anything wrong, is what this investigation said. It's an outrage, really, because what we're left with is the City of Denver saying Marvin Booker was killed even though he was an unarmed man in custody at the Denver jail, 5'5", 135 pounds, and he did not attack anyone. The worst that can be said after reviewing the videos is he was not sufficiently compliant as fast as the Denver sheriffs wanted him to be. And as a result, it was as if he committed a capital crime. He was executed. Soon, over 1,000 pounds of deputies were on Mr. Booker, using various aggressive restraints, including nunchucks, a chokehold, which has now apparently been banned by the City of Denver, tasers, and physical force, including a knee to his back and the weight of several humans on Mr. Booker while he is face down on the floor. Even when he was handcuffed behind his back, face down in the jail, the officers did not relent. They continued to apply excessive force. They continued to tase this man. And when he was unconscious, they still did not call for medical care. At this point, medical care was an absolute necessity for this man to survive, but nobody called for medical care. Instead, they picked him up like a rag doll, by his legs and by his shoulders, head down, handcuffed behind his back, and carried him in and dropped him in a cell and left him there. It was several minutes before they realized that he was not breathing. Only then did they summon medical care. But this was too late. Mr. Booker could not be saved. He died. And we're told by the City of Denver that this is the way they do business. That this is the way that they were trained. If this is the way that our law enforcement officials have been trained, then we need to change the way we do business. And that's why we want the federal government, the Department of Justice, the FBI to step in and give an evaluation of this investigation. We're in front of the federal court today, the Colorado federal court, because justice could not be attained in the Denver justice system. We asked every arm of the justice system to provide some remedy or some semblance of a legitimate investigation, and we were rebuffed. The doors have been slammed in our face at each stage, and we've brought this fight for justice to the federal courts. And we're asking the federal government to help in this fight. But even if they don't, you can guarantee that this family is not going away. This community is not going away. This city deserves better, and there are ways to secure justice, and we will do so in this federal court. So that is our call today, and a reminder that this family is a strong family, a dignified family. Mr. Booker was a dignified man who deserved better. When you go to jail in Denver, Colorado, you should not die. It happens too frequently, and the city doesn't learn. I would like to turn over the microphone to Marvin Booker's brother, the Reverend Spencer Booker, for a few words. Spencer.
Thank you. If you could come to the mic, sir.
Right.
Thank you. I want to thank my attorneys, Attorney Kimmer, Lane, and Newman, for their support. I want to thank Reverend Dr. Tim Tyler, Reverend Dr. Peters, great leaders of this community, my cousins, Kevin and Hardeman and Gail, who are our kinfolk here in Denver, who have to live with municipality of brutality, and I want to thank them, my wife. On behalf of my mother and my father, I want to say to this community that the video release was such a frustrating moment in our lives. It is what the witnesses said took place in that jail that night, in the murdering of my brother. It was a serious cover-up, and I cannot escape. I put confidence in the leaders who investigated this process to make sure that my brother received justice, only for them to tell me that everything those officers done to my brother was correct that night. Though agitated, but it appeared that the arresting officer, or the officer who was processing him, was more agitated. The way she went and grabbed my brother, who was only going to get his shoes. He obeyed her order. He started for the cell, but he remembered his shoes, which was a symbolic of the civil rights movement, in which Marvin was a student. He understood to take his shoes off was only to rest for the ongoing march of justice. He only went to get his shoes, and she reached for him and caught him totally off guard. Marvin never meant to hurt anybody. He never meant to even, she did not strike this lady, but it escalated because of her move. And as a result, her colleagues beat and killed my brother in this jail. He was not fleeing. He was locked up. He was locked up behind bars. He couldn't go nowhere. They gang beat him. When they knocked him in the chair, they should have left him right there. No, it wasn't enough. They wrestled and took my brother down to the ground. Karate chokehold him for 4 minutes. Who can handle anybody choking him in that manner? None of you who are listening to me could handle that. Literally choked him, chucked his legs, put a knee in his back, piled upon him. None of us could see my brother's reaction because of all those polices on top of him. They squeezed him, they squeezed his life out. And then they handcuffed him by their own admission on page 16, 17 in their own report. They handcuffed him, but still asked for a taser. And you tell me this was not a murder? This was a lynching in this city. My family is so upset. We are so angry. We're so frustrated that people have to come to your jail and may not leave out alive. And I pray for justice today. I pray that this case will receive the justice that it needs, not only for my mom and dad and for Marvin's life, but for every citizen who pays taxes in this community and who may, for some reason, have to visit the Simmons Center, the detention center in this community. Pray for my family. Pray for my mother and father. Pray for my siblings, that we are able to endure seeing our brother murdered, because it will be looped, it will go viral, and we will have to look at our brother being murdered by those who have badges, who were sworn to serve and protect us. God bless this community, and believe me, I'm praying, and I will be praying daily that God will bring justice in this matter, and that never again will this happen to any citizen who may have to go into the detention center in Denver, Colorado. God bless you. May God keep you. It's my prayer.
Thank you, Reverend Booker, for the very heartfelt words. As Reverend Booker mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, there's been strong community support for the search for justice for Marvin Booker. Prominent in leading this support have been very, very prominent members of our religious community, Two of them are here today, and I'd like to ask them each to say a few words. Dr. Tim Tyler of the Shorter AME Church will go first. Dr. Tyler.
When this investigation began, we were assured by the authorities that once we saw the video, we would understand why this happened. Yesterday, the community saw the video. We are more confused than ever how anybody could look at that video and see what happened and say that those officers were justified in killing Marvin Booker. We are horrified, we are stunned, and really speechless. And then we hear the authorities and the city fathers say that, well, the officers followed the protocol, and this is the policy that the city has set. So therefore, we have a policy and a protocol that in order to, until a man is dead, he is not subdued. But oops, we're so sorry that happened, and today we're going to change that protocol so nobody else would have to die. We think that the city of Denver is negligent in this. And if they think that the people and the community are going to sit by and just let them get away with this, they are terribly wrong. We're going to keep talking, we're going to keep fighting, we're going to keep calling you to come here, and we're going to keep yelling until somebody hears our cry. Marvin Lewis Booker is dead, and he died in a Denver jail at the hands of 5 officers who have been on paid vacation and now have come off of their paid vacation to kill somebody else. And we will not stand for it. So we're just saying to whoever can hear us, whoever will listen, that the community will not go away and we will not be quiet. And that we're going to join together and we're going to see that Marvin Lewis Booker gets justice for this murder that the world had an opportunity to see yesterday. No, we've not been satisfied by the video. The video proves that Denver has a murderous policy that says until you are dead, you've not been subdued.
Thank you, Dr. Tyler. One point that Dr. Tyler just made, you might think is an exaggeration. They're now back at work to kill again. But it is true. It has happened. One of the deputies involved in killing Marvin Booker, Deputy Fawn Gomez, was also involved in the death of Emily Rice 3 short years ago. That case settled with a considerable payout by the city of Denver because Emily Rice also died at the jail, also because of the deliberate indifference to her serious medical needs, and no punishment was meted out for Emily's death. Nothing was done in reality, and it happened again. That's what happens. It happens again and again. We also are privileged to have Reverend Peters here. Reverend Peters stepped forward immediately after this event and has been consistently supportive of the family and a voice of morality in the community. I'd ask Reverend Peters to say a few words.
It's a sad day in Denver. There's a stench. There's an ugly aroma over our city where all of the authorities responsible for making the decision declined to do so. They say Marvin died at 3:30, but it was 11 before they tried to reach family members to let them know. Why? Because they had to get their stories together. They had to collaborate in deciding what happened and what went wrong and why it was all legal. The people from the office of the public defender, independent monitor, and explained to us yesterday what we were seeing in the film. And we raised the question, he's not bothering anybody, why do they continue? They said he's still struggling. They did not report that one of the witnesses said that Marvin was saying, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Anyone who cannot breathe will struggle.
That's right.
That's only human
That's
nature.
right.
With handcuffs on him, officers all around him, he's restrained. He's not hurting anybody. He's not armed. He's helpless. And they
Helpless.
continued until he died right there on the floor. And we saw in the film something we did not know. There was a nurse also on the city payroll who was standing right over this whole incident. And when she saw all of them on him and he was not moving, she disappeared and walked away. Any nurse with a sense of healing would want to try to save a life. That didn't happen. And so now we're in for a struggle in the civil rights movement all through Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. When local authorities wouldn't act, we had to turn to the federal government. There's nothing left except the high authority of God. Now we are going to the federal courts, to the federal Justice Department, asking for some justice in Denver, because we can't get it from our city officials. God bless you, Reverend Booker, and all of you who've been a part of this struggle, the attorneys, the people who've written letters and taken stands and marched and participated. We know that injustice was done, that Marvin did not deserve to be murdered in court. And we're going to stand by that until justice is done.
Reverend Dr. Peters, thank you very much for those powerful words. Those are the comments that we have this morning. If anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Did anyone from the city apologize to the family?
The city not only has not apologized, but the city has given the functional equivalent of a kick in the gut to this family. We were always promised that we would get sufficient advance notice of the release of the video and of the report so that Marvin's family could make the pilgrimage to Denver so that they could be present. It's a powerful moment, a very emotional moment. The city ignored that. The city gave them the ability 1 hour before the release of the video to see the video prior to the rest of the world seeing. 1 hour notice, the day after Mother's Day, which would have required Marvin Booker's mother to make this pilgrimage on Mother's Day from Memphis, Tennessee to Denver, was nothing except cruel to this family. Apologies have not been uttered. There's no indication that Denver is sorry about anything.
Was the family given any explanation about why so many months passed before they were given the opportunity to view the video?
It has been 10 months since the death, and the video has not been released even to the family. No explanation other than we're investigating has been given. There is no legal reason this video could not have been shown to the family. There is no policy that prohibited City of Denver from showing this video to the family. Principles of morality and fairness and humanity would have commanded that this family be given the respect and the dignity it deserves. But the City of Denver ignored those principles.
What is the process like now? Do you have to make an official request like with the FBI, or what happens?
We will make an official request with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Justice requesting that they get involved in whatever manner that they feel appropriate, including evaluating the reliability of the investigation that the City of Denver claims to have done. Yes, sir.
What do you think really happened to
Mr. Booker apparently did not comply as quickly as the sheriff's deputies wanted him to. And these sheriff's deputies, according to the policy apparently, and according to their training, are the masters of their territory. And they were allowed to gang tackle Mr. Booker and to kill him in front of supervisors, in front of cameras, in front of nurses for a moment, in front of other inmates. And they knew they could do this and get away with it because that is the culture that the City of Denver has allowed to fester. And they did get away so far.
When was the last time that you guys saw Marvin before this incident? Before
Have
July of last year, when was the last time you had seen him?
I saw him during that week because he was connected with our church. While not an official minister, he was a close part of our church. And I saw him that week.
What was his mood like? Can you describe his?
His mood was the same as always, concerned about people, interested in moving forward, interested in getting some health things that he needed taken care of. And they called me at 11 o'clock after this 3:30 murder to ask how to reach his family, which shows that they were putting their story together to me.
be a discovery released, I mean, anything to the family, discovery, you know, the incident, that being collective statements.
Yesterday, when the city released the videotapes and the reports to the community, they released them to the family as well. No sooner, at the same time the rest of the community. We've already been reviewing those documents, of course, and there are very many discrepancies that we're discovering. There will be more investigation, I assure you. Thank you very much for your attendance, and keep up the struggle for justice for Marvin Booker. Thank you.